Hi everyone and welcome to English for You. I'm Pat.
And I'm Elsie.
Now you might remember a few issues of our magazine ago we started a comic story about time travel. So in that story, Ting Ting is a high school girl and her dad is an inventor, but he disappeared one day while working on a time machine.
Oh, and he left something behind, right?
Yeah.
He left another time machine behind, which Ting Ting grabbed and used to try to follow him.
However, she doesn't really know how to use it. She ended up in the past, where she met Gord, a guy called Gord, who is from her time, kind of the modern day.
Gord also travels through time, but his time machine is broke.
Yeah, it broke somehow. He can show Ting Ting how to use hers, though, so they kind of decide to make a deal.
He agrees to help her find her father if she helps him get back home.
Right, because he's stuck and she's got the machine, but she says, well, I'll help you, but we've got to find my dad first. So that was what we learned from our previous comic strip. That's the story so far, and we see now the adventure continues. Let's read on.
Reading. A trip through time. Gord and Ting Ting travel to the future. Ting Ting and Gord appear in a cloud of smoke.
Ting Ting, I know you're in a hurry to save your father, but you shouldn't just push the button like that. You need to take care to set the proper target for the journey.
I'm sorry. I didn't think. Whoa! What is this place? It's like a jungle. The air, it's so...
full of oxygen. All these plants produce it, even the weeds.
There are some buildings over there. Let's check them out.
Ting, wait! You really don't hesitate, do you?
Ting Ting and Gord walk through a large, amazing city. The buildings and technology look like nothing they've ever seen before. Not even in movies. Huge buildings are all over the place, but the city doesn't feel dirty or crowded. Strangely, it's actually very comfortable.
Where are all the people?
It looks like this place was abandoned.
Where are we? This doesn't look like any country I know.
I think we've moved forward into the future. Look!
They look up and see a very big tower with huge fans on one side of it. They've never seen it before, but somehow it looks familiar to them.
You see this machine? It looks like a carbon dioxide scrubber.
Like from a factory?
Yeah, except this one looks like it's designed to take way more carbon out of the air than the ones we're used to. It's likely using technology that hasn't yet been invented in our time.
Wow, that's wild.
So you can see a lot of this in our magazine, in the pictures, but there are beautiful plants everywhere, and Ting Ting and Gord appear in a cloud of smoke. That's kind of what's going on. And Gord says, Ting Ting, I know you're in a hurry to save your father, but you shouldn't just push the button like that. You need to take care to set the proper target for the journey. So he's saying, like, don't just grab things and press buttons. This is a careful piece of machine, an important and delicate device. We've got to figure out what we do, not just slam the button and time travel. So he says, take care to do this. We could also say, take care not to do this. And this phrase is used to tell or remind someone to make sure they do or don't do a particular thing. We might say, take care to look in both directions before you cross the road.
Take care to do something, 那就是小心的做某事。所以我们还可以说 take care to turn off the gas before you leave the house. 离开家门前呢，要小心记得关瓦斯。那如果你今天只听到或看到 take care， 没有后面的部分， 那就代表人家在告诉你要保重。那如果你听到的是 take care of somebody， 那就是照顾某人，像是我们可以说 she takes good care of her younger brother， 她把她的弟弟照顾得很好。
So Gord said to Ting Ting she needs to take good care to make sure their journey will take them to the right place. Here we mean a journey through time, but the word journey can mean any kind of trip from one place to another. It's often a long one. You wouldn't really use journey if you're just going to your local convenience store. You could maybe say journey to work if it takes you a while, but we kind of mean a long one here. A car journey across the country, a plane journey to a different country. We could say, for example, we stopped several times during our journey to Taidong.Journey
这个名词呢，解释为旅程、行程，可是呢，特别指长程的旅途哦。那像搭飞机的时候，你可能会听到空服员跟你说 "Wish you a pleasant journey"， 祝你旅游愉快、旅途愉快，那是长程的。那短程我们说 trip 就可以了。
Exactly. So Gord is trying to tell Ting Ting, you be careful. Think about what you're doing with that time travel machine. Ting Ting then says, I'm sorry, I didn't think.And then she looks around and says, Whoa, what is this place? It's like a jungle. So a jungle is a little like a forest, but it's a hot, wet kind of forest you find in a tropical country. Jungles, of course, have lots of trees and plants, but in a jungle, there's not really as much space.Everything's kind of growing close together on top of each other. It feels very wet and damp. The air is damp there. And it's just full of different kinds of life. For example, you could say the jungle was full of snakes, insects, and very large spiders.Jungle
这个名词就是丛林啦，里面有很大型的树木，还有很可怕的生物，比如说 spiders and snakes. I hate them.
Right. So next in the kind of pictures we see we're in a place with plants everywhere, but there's also some buildings far in the background.
再来呢，我们看到 Tintin 说 The air, it's so
she's kind of trying to think of how to describe it, and Gord finishes her sentence full of oxygen. Okay, so if something is full of something, it has a lot of that particular thing in it, often to the point you can't fit any more. We could say, this MRT carriage is full of senior high school students. The bottle is full of water, that kind of thing.Full 这个形容词是满的，所以当我们看到 be full of something， 那就是充满某物或是某人，像是呢 This shopping mall is full of people. Let's go to another one. 这间购物中心充满了人，我们先去别间。那这里是 full of oxygen.Right. Oxygen is a gas. It's an element that appears as a gas, and it's a gas that all living things need. 也就是氧气。Okay, so Gord then explains why the air is like this. He says, all these plants produce it, even the weeds. And of course, if you know your biology, you'll know that trees and plants will take in carbon dioxide and usually pump out oxygen.And it's interesting that weeds do this too. A weed is just a plant that you don't want to grow in your garden or on a big area of grass or really anywhere it's just not wanted. These plants aren't always bad, but if you're trying to grow some plants, the weeds are often kind of stronger or they steal the water and the food from the plants you want.So the idea is you get rid of the weeds because you just don't want them there. For example, if I don't get rid of the weeds in my garden, my flowers won't grow properly. Weed 指的是杂草、野草，那它是一个可数名词，而且通常是复数型出现 weeds. So Ting Ting then says, there are some buildings over there. Let's check them out.To check something out means to go and look at something, to explore it, to find out more about it, to get to know it basically, either by experiencing it or looking at it for a while. To check something out 就是瞧一瞧、看一看某个事物，像是呢，有 YouTuber 可能会跟你说 Please check our
latest YouTube video， 或者是 please check out our latest YouTube video， 代表就是请瞧一瞧，看一看我们最近的 YouTube 影片。
Okay, so it looks like she's run off and Gord says, Ting, wait. Because Ting Ting is not really thinking about danger. She's just, I want to see this. Let's go. And Gord's maybe a little more careful.
那这里我们看到 location 说的是walking through a futuristic city. Future 是未来，那 futuristic 这个形容词就是未来感十足的。
So we think of things like flying cars and buildings that look as though they're super modern and do kind of cool stuff. Imagine all those movies that look at the future. This is what it is. Gord is kind of catching up to Ting Ting. She ran off ahead. He follows her and says, You really don't hesitate, do you? So Gord tells Ting Ting she never hesitates. To hesitate is to stop and wait before doing something. Now, this could be a bad thing. You might think, I can't do it. This could be dangerous. I'm not sure. I'm hesitating. But sometimes you hesitate to think carefully and go, wait a minute, let's just stop. Let's take a moment. Let's pause and think what's the best thing to do. So you hesitate to think carefully because you're not sure if you're doing the right thing, or because you don't think you can succeed. For example, Billy hesitated before asking Rita to the school dance, as he wasn't sure she'd say yes.
Hesitate 这个动词呢是犹豫的意思。那我们说 don't hesitate to do something， 那就是毫不犹豫，马上的去做某件事情。像是我们还可以说 if you need anything, don't hesitate to ask。如果你需要任何东西的话，尽管问，不要犹豫。那它的名词形式呢是 hesitation。Do something without hesitation， 那也是代表你毫不犹豫的做某事。
Yeah, so sometimes to hesitate is good because you want to make sure you're doing the right thing.
Yeah, you need to think twice before you do anything.
Right, but sometimes hesitating is bad. Sometimes you should just do anything. Stop thinking about it so much. But anyway, we now see Ting Ting and Gord walk through a large, amazing city. The buildings and technology look like nothing they've ever seen before, not even in movies. Huge buildings are all over the place, but the city doesn't feel dirty or crowded. Strangely, it's actually very comfortable.
这么大的城市一点也不挤不脏，而且还很舒服。And then the article says, Ting Ting, 他说 Where are all the people?
That's a good question. If it's a big city, there should be lots of people. Where are they? Gord says, It looks like this place was abandoned. So abandon can be a verb. Here we're using abandoned with the extra ed in its adjective form. If something is abandoned, it's left behind when people leave. If you abandon something as the verb, you leave it there and go away. When we use abandoned to talk about a building or a city, it just means it's empty. Everyone has gone. There is nobody left. They've taken their stuff and left.Abandoned 这个形容词呢，代表的是废弃的、被遗弃的，所以我们可以用它来形容一个地方 ，an abandoned place。那动词形式呢，原形是 ed 去掉，我们会看到 abandon 这个字，就是抛弃、遗弃。So Ting Ting is wondering to herself, where are we? This doesn't look like any country I know. And then Gord says, I think we've moved forward into the future. Look!And what is he looking at? Well, we see in the picture, they look up and see a very big tower with huge fans on one side of it. They've never seen it before, but somehow it looks familiar to them. OK, 看起来有点熟悉的感觉，因为高塔的一侧有扇叶。那个是什么东西呢？ And then Gord says, You see this machine? It looks like a carbon dioxide scrubber.Okay, now this is, it sounds a really fancy term, but it's pretty simple. Carbon dioxide is a gas it's CO2. It's air that we don't want. It's not good for people to breathe it. It hurts the atmosphere. And a carbon dioxide scrubber takes CO2, carbon dioxide, out of the air to make the air cleaner.OK, 所以 a carbon dioxide scrubber 指的就是二氧化碳的洗涤设备。那这样的设备呢，可以吸收并且降低空中的二氧化碳。
那常常会用来处理工厂所排放出来的气体。
Okay, so we get these in real life. There are places that have things like air purifiers that will suck that out of the air. And Ting Ting is familiar with what this kind of machine is. She says, like from a factory.
And Gore says, yeah, except this one looks like it's designed to take way more carbon out of the air than the ones we're used to.
Okay, so it's a lot bigger, it's a lot more powerful than the ones they normally experience.
今天的 Language in Focus 我们要来讲到的是 except 的用法。第一个我们要注意的是 except 或者是 except for 加上名词或 VING， 它可以代表的是不包括在内。那它是一个介系词哦，也就是呢被排除在句子所述的情况之外，有减掉的意思。像是呢 I like everyone in my class except 或者是 except for John， 代表我喜欢班上所有的人，那是除了约翰以外，表示我不喜欢他，他是被排除在外的。那第二个，当我们看到 except 加上子句或者是一个动词的时候呢，它是当作连接词在使用的，那意思是除了点点点之外，用来表达呢先前提到的事情不完全正确。For example, because of the power cut, we had nothing to do except play cards. 因为停电，所以我们无事可做，只能够做的就是打牌。那再来呢，像是 besides, in addition to 这一些啊，它指的是除了先前提到的状况之外，还补述其他的东西哦，其他的情况有再加上的意思。像是呢 in addition to Chinese, Sharon also knows how to speak Taiwanese. 除了中文之外 Sharon 还会说台语。
So Gord said this is taking more carbon out of the air. We mentioned oxygen earlier, that's an element. Carbon is another very common chemical element. It makes up a lot of our body structure. Now, when Gord says it in this context, taking carbon out of the air, he means the gas forms like CO, carbon monoxide, CO2, carbon dioxide.
那 carbon 这个字本身呢，指的就是碳，二氧化碳里面的碳。
So Gord says this machine is better, it's more efficient, it's bigger than the ones we are used to. If you are used to something, then this thing is familiar to you. You know it, you recognize it, this is normal to you. It's not something you're going to find strange and weird. So in their normal lives, they get, oh, okay, carbon dioxide scrubbers, kind of small or a bit bigger in factories. We're used to those. We know what those do. This is like that, but bigger and better.
所以我们这边看到呢，它用的是 be used to 来接上一个名词或是 VING， 表达习惯或是习惯做某件事。那这里的 to 它是一个介系词哦，所以再强调一遍，你后面要接上的是名词或是 VING。像是呢，我们可以说 she's still not used to getting up early, and that's why she's always late。代表她还不习惯早起这件事情，所以她总是会迟到。
So Gord follows up by saying it's likely using technology that hasn't yet been invented in our time. So this is the future. It's using a new kind of technology. Technology is the use of science and engineering to build things that achieve a purpose, does something practical. We often think of technology as science being used in industry, for factories, to make things and do things. For example, thanks to modern technology, we can have video chats with many people who are all in different places at the same time.
Technology 这个名词呢，代表技术设备，好，或是科技。所以当我们前面用形容词 modern 来形容的时候，代表是 modern technology 现代科技。那当然也可以用 advanced 这个形容词来形容 advanced technology， 那就是先进的科技。还有像是像医疗科技也是很重要的 medical technology。
And Gord says they hadn't, or scientists hadn't, invented this kind of technology when, I suppose, they are from, in the time they're from. To invent something means to create a new thing. Almost always a piece of technology, an actual thing. And you do this by having completely new ideas or building on old ones. You invent things like new cell phones, you invent different computers. People have invented cars and things all through history. For example, the telephone was invented by Alexander Graham Bell.
Invent 这个动词是发明创造，那发明家就是在 invent 字尾加上 or 变成 inventor 就可以了。好啦，所以呢，再给同学们一个例句 Thomas Edison is considered one of the greatest inventors in history. 那代表爱迪生被认为是历史上最伟大的发明家之一。
And after Gord explains all this, Ting Ting says, Wow, that's wild.
Wild 这边的意思是独特而且吸引人的。
Yeah, kind of cool, amazing. Whoa, that blows my mind. We'll find out more about what Ting Ting and Gord discover in the future tomorrow, but right now let's go to our For You Chat question.
For You Chat.
So we've got this big, cool, futuristic city with modern technology, but no people. And our chat question is, where do you think all the people went? Give your best guesses.
Oh, maybe they were abducted by aliens.
Okay, taken away. Maybe there was a disease that sort of killed everybody but left the technology there. Maybe they just gave up and decided they'd go out into the forests.
Or maybe they moved to another town or place to build another modern city.
Or maybe they spent so much time with this new technology and inventing new things that they kind of stopped having children. And so the population gets older and older, and then the last one just dies and passes away.
Or they were simply invisible.
That mean the people are still there?
Yeah.
That'd be really cool. Well, let's find out tomorrow. Join us tomorrow for part 2 of this episode of Time Travel Adventures. See you then. Bye for now.
Bye.
Vocabulary Review.
Journey. Jonathan went on a journey from Canada to Japan to try the different kinds of food there. Jungle. If we continue to cut down trees and harm the environment, there soon won't be many jungles on Earth. Weed. Andy spends a lot of time pulling out weeds from between the flowers to make the garden look nice. Hesitate. Jenny hesitated before she got on the bus because she wasn't sure if it was the right one. Technology. Isaac likes technology, so he often buys the latest phones, TVs, and watches. Invent. Before Alexander Graham Bell invented the phone, people had to communicate over long distances by writing letters.
智慧小补帖
Oxygen. Abandoned. Carbon.
以上节目是由活用空中美语制作，活用空中美语杂志，请洽询全国各大书店。如欲索取试听教材，请来电02-2364-4000 02-2364-4000，或上网查询，网址是 www.english4u.net www.english4u.net